Why do you know the exact lyrics to a song you haven't heard in 10 years, but you forgot the name of the person who introduced themselves to you 5 seconds ago? You stand there smiling, completely blanking on what they just said, while your brain happily supplies the entire plot of an obscure 90s cartoon. You walk into a room to get something important, stop, and realize you have absolutely no idea what you were looking for. It feels embarrassing, like your brain is purposely sabotaging you by keeping the junk and throwing away the vital files. In this video, we are going to look at why your memory selectively holds onto trivial details, why it deletes the important stuff, and how your brain actually decides what is worth keeping. You sit down to pay a bill, and you suddenly cannot remember your own password, the one you use every single week. You stare at the blinking cursor, feeling a rising sense of panic and frustration. Meanwhile, out of nowhere, you vividly remember a weird commercial from 2008. You remember the jingle. You remember the actor's face. You remember what couch you were sitting on when you watched it. The frustration here is incredibly specific. You start thinking you just have a terrible memory. You assume you're losing your edge, or that you're just too scattered to hold on to real responsibilities. Think about what happens when you're packing for a trip. You make a mental list of the absolute essentials: passport, phone charger, toothbrush. You repeat it in your head. You double check your bags. Then you get to the hotel, unzip your suitcase, and realize the charger is still sitting on your kitchen counter. Yet, while you are standing there staring at your empty hands, your brain effortlessly reminds you of a highly embarrassing thing you said to a cashier 3 years ago. You said you too when they told you to enjoy your movie. Your brain held onto that tiny, useless interaction with crystal clarity, but completely dropped the ball on the charger you actively tried to remember just hours ago. You can read 3 pages of a book that you genuinely want to learn from, and by the time you reach the bottom of the third page, you realize you have absorbed absolutely nothing. Your eyes read the words, but your mind was entirely blank. You have to start over. But if someone asks you about the plot of a terrible movie you watched at a sleepover 12 years ago, you can recount the entire storyline, the twist ending, and what snacks you were eating at the time. Your brain seems completely disinterested in what you consciously value, prioritizing random background noise instead. This happens because of how your brain tags information for storage. When you try to remember something important, like a password, a name, or a to-do list, you're usually operating under a slight amount of pressure. You're actively trying to force the information into your brain. Psychologists refer to something called the von Restorff effect, which suggests that items that stand out from their environment are far more likely to be remembered than things that blend in. Your daily responsibilities, no matter how important they are to your life, are repetitive. Paying bills, packing chargers, learning the names of colleagues in a corporate meeting all look and feel the exact same to your nervous system. They are routine. Your brain looks at routine information and decides it is safe to overwrite it to save mental energy. This selective recording system is happening all day long. When you walk into the kitchen to grab your keys and suddenly freeze, wondering why you're standing next to the fridge, your brain is doing something very specific. The doorway you just walked through acted as a physical event boundary. Your brain uses physical environments to compartmentalize memories. You left the living room, so your brain closed the file on what you were thinking about in the living room to prepare for new information in the kitchen. The thought about the keys was filed away as irrelevant the second your environment changed. But that song lyric from 2014, that was tied to a feeling, a specific summer, a driving memory, so it survives the doorway easily. The trivial things are completely different from your daily tasks. The weird commercial, the embarrassing cashier interaction, the random pop culture trivia all had an emotional spike attached to them. They were novel, funny, weird, or intensely awkward. Your brain is an emotion tracking machine. It does not care about what is logically important for your career or your daily tasks. It cares about what makes you feel something. When you felt a tiny spike of amusement at that commercial, your brain stamped it with a permanent retention tag. When you cringed at the movie theater, your brain treated that social awkwardness as a survival threat and recorded it in high definition so you would never make that exact mistake again. When you're trying to remember something important, you're usually dealing with low level stress. Even micro stress changes how your brain processes incoming data. You meet someone new, and you're worried about making a good impression, making eye contact, and shaking their hand correctly. Your cognitive load is completely maxed out. So when they say their name, there is simply no processing power left to encode it into your memory bank. The sound hits your ear and falls right out of your head. You didn't forget their name. You never actually learned it in the first place. You are a person whose brain is prioritizing emotional impact over administrative tasks, constantly scanning the room for things that feel significantly different from everything else. Since your brain only permanently saves things that are emotional, weird, or novel, you have to stop trying to force administrative data into your head using sheer willpower. Willpower does not create a memory. You have to start speaking your brain's actual language. This means taking the boring, important things and artificially making them feel interesting, strange, or even slightly dangerous. If you want to remember something that actually matters, you have to attach a hook to it that your emotion tracking brain cares about. When someone introduces themselves to you, the absolute worst thing you can do is nod, smile politely, and worry about your own posture. That guarantees the name will vanish because your cognitive load is busy managing your social performance. You need a new behavioral shift. The next time you shake hands, deliberately pause your internal monologue for exactly 3 seconds. When they say they are Michael, look at their face and instantly connect their name to the most absurd, highly visual action you can think of. Picture them holding a neon microphone. Picture them throwing a microphone at a bear. It does not matter how ridiculous the image is. In fact, the more ridiculous and cartoonish it is, the stronger the memory will be. You are manually giving their name the exact same emotional weight as a weird commercial. You are manufacturing a novelty spike. This same shift applies to physical movements. The next time you need to walk into the bedroom to grab your glasses, do not just silently think the word while you walk. As we established, your brain will delete that thought the second you cross the doorway. Instead, give the action a physical or sensory anchor before you move. Tap your leg twice, snap your fingers, or, surprisingly effective, just say the word out loud in a completely bizarre voice. By adding a physical movement or an auditory cue that is out of the ordinary, you trick your brain into tagging that intention as a unique event. It survives the physical boundary of the doorway because you change the format from a silent, routine thought into a physical, real world action. Your brain assumes a physical action must be more important than a passing thought. If you are trying to read a dry report for work or study for an exam, reading the exact same paragraph 3 times in a flat, internal monotone will yield nothing. Your brain aggressively filters out monotone repetition as background noise, like the hum of a refrigerator. To get the information to stick, you have to change the emotional texture of the moment. Read the hardest paragraph out loud, as if you are furiously explaining it to someone who refuses to listen. Suddenly, your heart rate goes up just a tiny fraction. Your vocal inflection changes, your facial expression shifts. The information is no longer a boring block of text. It is an active argument. Your brain immediately starts recording because it thinks you are in a mild social conflict, and conflict is always tagged as highly relevant for survival. You can apply this to packing your bags too. Making a logical mental list of your phone charger, your keys, and your passport is a routine task. Your brain ignores routine, but if you close your eyes and mentally picture your phone charger wrapped around your passport, and the passport is somehow on fire, you will not forget them. You are intentionally taking routine objects and forcing them to stand out. It feels incredibly silly the first few days you practice this, but the result is concrete. You will find yourself standing in your hotel room, unzipping your bag, and pulling out the charger you actually remembered to pack. This shift completely changes how you interact with your own mind. You have to stop telling yourself that you are losing your edge, or that you are inherently scatterbrained, or that your memory is failing. Every time you stand in a kitchen and get frustrated, calling yourself stupid, you reinforce a false narrative. Your hardware is not broken. Your brain is actually functioning exactly as it was designed to function. It is ruthlessly protecting your mental energy by filtering out the repetitive, non threatening, routine parts of your day. You do not have a bad memory. You have an incredibly efficient, highly aggressive spam filter. Once you recognize this, the shame disappears. You stop feeling embarrassed when you blank on a word or forget why you opened the refrigerator. You just recognize that your brain filed the moment under routine maintenance and quietly deleted it to save space. You stop fighting your biology and start working with it. You stop relying on willpower and start relying on novelty, making the important things just weird enough to stick around. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We explore the quiet, everyday psychology behind why we do the things we do. And I'm curious, what is the most completely useless piece of trivia or random memory your brain has permanently saved for no reason? Let me know in the comments.